I have students ask me all the time about taxation, and I always say, how did they get Al Capone? It was the IRS that got Al Capone.
Absolutely.
And they never actually got him for murder, even though I'm guessing he might have committed a few. And
so, ordered a few anyway.
And on Wall Street, we say there's only two things that are for sure, and that's death and taxes. So now you're on the blockchain, you're probably going to pay taxes on these transactions, and you probably should pay taxes. And if you're a U.S. citizen, you're going to pay them globally. And is that a conversation you try to have with people and just say, look, this is happening, understand what it is, be proactive about it, or at least understand it, because it might affect your trading decisions?
Yeah, I think you 100% should be aware of it, and you should 100% be proactive about it. And when you're aware and you're proactive, then you can start to do things to minimize it. I don't know if you've ever heard, there's some great Tony Robbins math that he talks about the value of deferral. Have you ever heard this?
No.
So what he goes through and he explains is he says, all right, imagine that you started with $1 and you could double it each period for 20 periods. 1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, and so on. After 20 periods, you had about $1 million. Okay. Imagine that you instead, each doubling period, you had to pay 33% tax. So 1 becomes 2, but then you pay 33% on the 1, so it's 1.67, then you double it, and so on. At the end of the same 20-year period, if in the first example you had $1 million, how much would you guess you have paying 33% tax along the way?
I guess it's a lot less than a third off of that, right? I don't know, I'm gonna guess like 200 grand.
Okay. I mean, it's a reasonable guess, right? So your first instinct is right to say, somebody might say, it's 670,000 or something because we lose 33%. Much lower than 200,000.
660 or something, I don't know.
$28,000.
$28,000.
So it literally costs you over $1 million over that time period. And the numbers are somewhat disingenuous because nobody's really starting with $1 and nobody's really doubling each period, although in crypto you might.
Right.
But the whole point is there are tools and ways to plan this that even if you paid the 33% at the end, you're comparing 670 to 28, you're way ahead, way ahead. And that just gives you such an advantage in opportunity and in life and being able to fund things that matter to you. Like I tell a lot of people, I'm kind of frustrated with a lot of wealthy people in the world and in crypto as well, which is I think that we have a world where wealth should be a lever for your values in the world, and it should be used to bring those things into the world. And I think a lot of wealth is wasted on wealthy people, meaning that, like, what are you doing with your money? What is the cool stuff that you're doing? Hopefully you're doing some really cool stuff. Like, why do you make money in the first place? Hopefully to make your life better and the lives of other people better. And how do you feel you can do that? Probably not by buying the S&P 500 once you've made $100 million. Like, who really cares? And so your ability to do that quickly, easier, have greater impact comes from doing better tax planning. I don't think you should lie or do tax evasion or something illegal or something like that. But if you're aware of it, then you can make decisions proactively, like you said, that put you in a position where you can preserve and advance the things that you believe are important in the world.
Yeah.
And you should do that. You should do it absolutely. I get into these discussions with people about, some people today, there's a kind of attitude against rich people and making money and entrepreneurship and things like that. And there's like this idea that paying taxes is patriotic. And I'm like, paying taxes is absolutely not patriotic. It's absolutely patriotic to pay the lowest amount of tax possible. And the reason is this. What they'll come and they'll say, oh, well, we need these services to exist. Well, they're running a $2 trillion deficit. They're paying for those services whether you contribute to it or not. So what's the difference? It's not like somebody didn't get their medical treatment because you didn't pay as much in tax. But you know what does happen? You have the money that you can contribute to somebody's medical treatment who wouldn't have gotten it otherwise. On top of that, they're really wasteful with their spending. I mean, medical costs in the US are about 18% of GDP. You know what they are in Singapore? 4%. 4% of GDP in a country where the GDP per capita is lower and their medical outcomes are higher. Like, why are you encouraging this system that's highly inefficient? That seems to me incredibly irresponsible. I don't think that's like actually a good thing to do. So instead, focus on deploying your money as efficiently as possible. Like, I'm not saying go and like just blow it on bottle service or something, but you can do a lot of good with that money. And you kind of have like a moral obligation to the world to do that. We were talking earlier about Washington, D.C., and you have a great little thing around the office here. And I was walking around it's like at George Washington's house.
Okay.
And they have this place where they're showing like the history, and they've got the big sign that says no taxation without representation. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is exactly what's happening to Americans living abroad today. No taxation. Like, it's literally what you fought the Revolutionary War over, and you guys are busy doing this. Like, what are we talking about? Have we learned nothing? This is crazy. But there's like a media narrative that's against this stuff, and